What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be doing a full review for the Romancing Festival Central SaGa banner that brings the newest version of Rocbouquet. She's actually the title character here, and then a new version of Matriarch and a third version of Macha. Well, this Rocbouquet has lots of style. This time she is more of a support unit with some debuff. And then there is Matriarch that has different types of support for offense and defense, and Macha is a character that will increase her overall damage output. So we'll start talking about Rocbouquet. She gives kind of the name to the better, and well, there's just so many styles to talk about, but this one is kind of a standalone, but will be much better if you have at least one of her past versions. I'll be talking about that later. Well, this Rocbouquet has 70% endurance. This is kind of okay for mages, 93% will. That's really good to protect against ailments and magical attacks. Her agility and intelligence combined are pretty high. Not the best one it could be, but good enough. She does have some high glove because she can heal. And for passives we have Gobby Hook Switch. When attacking with shadow attacks, she grants herself an attack boost of large effect the last 3 turns and recovers 2 BP. Large effect means 20% damage increase, and since she can stack this 3 times, well, you have as much as 60% damage increase. But important effect here is the BP plus, 2 points of BP just by attacking with Shadow. This is pretty similar to Action Switch because it carries a different effect as well. The second, when attacking with lightning attacks, she will grant herself a defense boost of small effect that also lasts for 3 turns and recover her HP by around 200. Small defense boost equals to 15%, and she can get 3 stacks, so that is actually okay to decrease damage. She has another damage reduction passive as well. So if she uses a skill that has both Shadow and Lightning, she's going to get 4 different effects like Action Switch from other characters, and that is amazing. The second passive, Flash of Revelation, starts the battle with 12 BP, and when she lands a weak attack, she will also recover HP by around 200 and will recover her own BP by 1. Well, this here is actually amazing because when attacking a weak target with at least a shadow attack, she will recover 6 BP per turn and will heal 2 times if that attack has also lightning. That means 400 heal for free without healing with any type of active skill, just passively. That's actually amazing. With 12 BP she can also inherit any skill from her past styles to use on turn 1. Now passive number 3, Intrinsic Staff 4. When attacking with staves, damage will increase by 20%. When attacked by an attack that will cause resist, reduces damage taken by extreme effect, that is minus 40%, but you need to resist the attack. Well, it's kinda easier with Rocbouquet because she has 2 additional resistance to Shadow and Lightning, and if you give her Proof of 4 Tower, you are pretty set. She just needs help with Pierce resistance. But if you're carrying too many characters in the same party with the same type of passives, it becomes a little harder to protect and all. Then, when attacked by an attack that will cause resist, she has 37% chance to evade. This is the same sort of passive that we'll find in the Matriarch later. So when you look on this, we have 3 stacks of attack boost, but only 20% damage increase at all times, so for farming her damage won't be as high as it could have been. And then she gets at least 3 stacks of defense boost if you act with lightning attacks, and then she has at least 40% damage reduction when equipped with resist. Now for spells, we have the first one called Graceful Cup, a 0 BP, 1 LP spell that recovers revives, should be around 0 to 1.8 thousand when maxed, and grants the target defense up of small effect. That means it will increase the resistance to damage by 5% for the whole fight. So besides healing, she's also protecting the character for the long run. But when you're using this spell, you cannot trigger any of the effects of Gobby Hook Switch. So it may not be so interesting depending on the situations, but at least she has a way to revive if the situation needs. Now, she's all about the second spell, called the Lightning of Darkness for 8 BP. You have a single target attack with Shadow and Lightning damage. That means it will trigger all the effects of Gobby Hook Switch. And when the attack lands, it will grant the target attack down, decreasing damage by 15%, but only lasts for 1 turn. The good thing is that attack down stacks with other instances of attack down. It also stacks with one instance of morale down. It will also debuff all status from the target, all 8, yes, by 15%. So here we need to discuss some other styles, like for example, the Valentine's Matriarch has a skill called Paean of Heartthrob that debuffs all status, buffs all status, applies defense down and defense boost. Yes, it has a combination of both spells from Nawal's daughter. It's 12 VP, it's a lot, you cannot spam this. But the newest version of Matriarch has access to 5 VP per turn, she can use it more often, and it's a nice thing to have, but it just doesn't work in all scenarios. There is also some other character that is Nawal's daughter, Halloween style with her Trick or Treat Carnival. For 9 VP, she debuffs all status, but just like Matriarch, is for all enemies, and applies defense down. This is more to increase your damage than to resist, and gives 1 VP to everyone. In the end, it just costs 8, just like Rocbouquet. The Rocbouquet gets so much VP. Now we need to discuss something else. Attack down is not so easy to find. We can talk about, for example, Eaglemal. She has that from Malicious Trick. This is a 7 VP skill with S power that just gives attack down. But in her case, it's for 2 turns that can stack. She can just keep this up. Problem is the cost. You have to just wait till you reach very high values of BP to just use it one after another. That's not practical. While Rocbouquet actually can use this skill many times in a row. First of all, we need to discuss the viability of the skill. There are bosses that don't have the Fight weakness. That is a skill that just removes all the buffs applied to a boss. But it's just so common these days, it's just like at least 80 or 90% of the bosses having access to that type of skill. Hence why I stopped using the buffers in the game. But there are some caveats here. First of all, if your boss uses the 5 weaknesses on the end of that turn, that means that if you are fast enough, you can decrease the damage by the attack down and by debuffing the offensive status. That can be intelligence, agility, STR, Dex, depends on the attacks from the boss, but you are debuffing this. Some bosses have very high status and you will decrease damage by a lot by debuffing. But if your enemy uses the 5 weaknesses right on the start of its turn and you went before, you will lose all the normal debuffs, but you will still keep the attack down, so you don't lose everything. And there are bosses that don't have the 5 weakness. In these situations, Rocbouquet will shine. But like I said, even if they remove, Rocbouquet can use Lightning of Darkness 3 times in a row because of the BP generation if she is hitting a weak point. That means that if the enemy is weak to either Shadow or Lightning 3 times in a row, it's amazing. Then she has to skip 1 turn, and that 1 turn is something important. Because this Rocbouquet is much better with 1 inheritance that I need to discuss right now. Comes from her Global Access style Fleeting Beauty. We have Lightning Crash. This is a water spell with Lightning and Shadow damage. Pretty weak power, but doesn't matter. It hits double elements and will trigger her passives at all times. Even has a chance to stun, but it doesn't really matter. So, if you cycle Lightning of Darkness with Lightning Crash, you will stack all 3 Gobby Hook Switch, and that is both offensive, defensive, and just self-heals a lot. But if your enemy is not weak to Shadow or Lightning, she will just get 5 BP per turn. That will still allow her to use Lightning of Darkness 2 times in a row. Then you have to use the Lightning Crash attack and then go back to have at least 2 turn cycle of this spell. Some bosses have the 5 weaknesses planted in normal turns, like every end of turn. Some bosses have the 5 weaknesses when you reach their soul of the buff. Sometimes just 30%. That means that you are better off using Lightning of Darkness 2 times in a row and then stopping a little. And there are bosses that have some specific turns where they use the 5 weaknesses. So you have to understand the behavior of the boss to use this Rocbouquet on full potential. JP is trying to release the buffers again with similar setups as his version of Rocbouquet, so only time will tell how many times this will come into hand, and I do believe it's a very nice skill when you consider the cost and the real effects that it can achieve. Now, the last spell is called Gobby Spark. For 12 VP, you have a full AoE attack with Shadow and Lightning. That means that it will trigger all the effects as well. And it has critical damage against fish. Then there's 2 effects. A chance to debuff the intelligence by 30%. That's a nice debuff if your enemy does not have the Fire weakness and you want to debuff all enemies. And also removes all intelligence buffs from targets. This is very, very specific. It's for a fight where you have an enemy that buffs intelligence on hit. There are bosses that had this behavior before, so that you will remove their intelligence buffs to get 0 base, and then you debuff. Because sometimes we actually debuff the enemy, but that enemy is buffing itself. It's a countermeasure, and one thing may be higher than the another. In the end, you're still reducing damage, but in this case, it will just be better. The thing is just that, well, 12 VP means that if you are fighting against an enemy that is weak to either Shadow or Lightning, you get 6. You can just use this every 2 turns. Good enough if you really need to debuff intelligence. So there's possible utility, I just don't know when exactly this will shine. But as you see, Rocbouquet is all about the skill number 2, and getting the best of it will depend if you have the Fleeting Beauty Rocbouquet to inherit Lightning Crash and make use of the best cycle possible. And by having Fleeting Beauty, you also have access to Blooming Fireworks, plus by amplifying that becomes an A-power attack that deals Shadow and Heat. You will lose the defense boost and self-heal from the secondary effect. But this spell is nice because it recovers between 1 to 2 BP to the party, including herself, so in the end it will cost either 9 or 8 when using. So she can actually use many times if she is attacking weak targets. Remember that she gets 1 more BP by attacking weak targets, either Shadow or Heat. This makes her a very interesting comparison to Global X Rouge, that has chase attacks, recovers BP on attack, and people like to use him because he can also trigger Blooming Fireworks, plus to help the party. So it's a competition, but they can still be used together, but I don't think you will have enough space for them. But it's an interesting setup anyway. And now, just as an extra, Psycho Boom also works as inheritance. It's a full AoE attack that debuffs both intelligence and will by 15%, and then it becomes a single target attack with double S power. And the good thing about this is that you can use this on turn 1, and it will trigger the attack boost 2 times. The second hit will do more damage, and she will also get 2 BP. And if the enemy is also weak to Shadow, she gets yet 2 more, reaching as much as 9 BP to recover. But the bad thing is that if you do inherit that, you will have to use a normal attack after, because she will miss on a 0 BP spell to keep using, and after that she would just recover less BP. Maybe in a farming situation where this works, but besides for boss fights you are much better off just sticking to Lightning of Darkness and the Lightning Crash spell. Now, if you don't have Fleeting Beauty, there are other options for inheritance. The first one comes from her S version from Tower inside the game. It's permanent, everyone can get. Lightning Plus, it's a free spell that deals lightning damage. That means that it will trigger the defense boost and the heal effect, but it will not trigger the plus BP and attack boost. But I prefer Dark Wash Plus, that becomes triple S power with 66 mod, and then it will remove all buffs an enemy has applied. So it works for the bosses that have buff on hit. Sometimes they attack 3 times and they self-buff, they become super dangerous. She will be able to use this every 2 turns, enough to just not be killed easily. Then we have the Enraged Squid attack that she can use on turn 1 now from her Prefecture style, that hits between 3 to 5 times with both Shadow and Lightning, but it will only trigger the passive once, it even says here. There's also Dark Pulse. This is an AoE attack with Lightning and Shadow. Then you can actually just switch between her opener attack and just keep using Dark Pulse if you want. From her A style in any premium banner, you can also get Shadow Chains if you want to paralyze. There is a self-heal spell that you would not need, it will be too much. And Soul Freeze Plus is an interesting spell, has a power and cheaper cost. And from her SaGa Festival style, we have Black Sprite, a 10 BP full AoE attack that deals Shadow and Lightning damage with a chance to inflict Charm. It's an S inheritance as well if you want to attack on turn 1 and then again on turn 3 with fast. It will work. Now let's get back into the character. I do believe this Rocbouquet offers a new layer of utility by debuffing all different status at once, and even when it doesn't work as intended, she still has a lot of sustain, will apply attack down, and will not easily die when using correctly if you have the Fleeting Beauty style. And if you do, this style here is very good and will receive a triple S grade in our tier list. The next character is Macha, and well, she has a very good combination of agility, intelligence, and will. Intelligence 120% is the highest one in the game right now. Her endurance is not that bad, with 79 being mostly enough. She loses a little love when compared to her past style because she's not that focused on healing anymore. And for passives we have Macha's Fluke. When she activates an overdrive attack, it needs to be an attack, she will trigger Crimson Sun Flare. This one is a full AoE attack with S power that deals both heat and sun damage. That's pretty amazing, especially when using on overdrive, it's gonna do some damage, although it uses rank 1. And then, apart from this OD mechanic, when she lands an attack that is either skill or spell, she has a chance to trigger Crimson Flare 37% of the time. Crimson Flare Plus is a triple S attack with both heat and sun. So when you are on overdrive, you can trigger both attacks. You can just choose the target and then Crimson Flare may trigger on that target, although Crimson Sun Flare will always trigger. And this is important because I'll explain a little later. The second one is called Divinity, and on the start of a turn she gets Morale Up and Guard Up by medium effect. That increases her damage by 25%, reduces damage taken by 25%, lasts for that turn only, and she recovers 1 BP, so she gets 4 BP per turn. Bad thing is that she won't be able to stack Morale Up or Guard Up with other casters in the party. And the last one is Fired Up 7, increasing damage potential by 40%, so she has 65% at all times. Guard Up is her only way to decrease damage. Now for spells we have Rock Summon. For free you get a Earth spell that deals blunt and pierce damage with deep power, and it carries a 25% chance to recover 4 BP. That's interesting. The second one, Flame Bash. For 6 BP you have a full AoE attack with C power, nice, and it carries double elements, both sun and heat. Before attacking she buffs her own intelligence by 30% on max level, and then she attacks. That means that this will feel like a B power attack in the end, for 6 BP only, and she can use 3 times in a row. Pretty nice. I believe she can solo farm some story stages, but we'll see about that later. The spell number 3 is called SaGa Magical Train. It's a full AoE attack, it's an earth spell that deals blunt damage. For 8 PP it's pretty nice, right? But it carries another effect. It grants the target Sundered that lasts for 2 turns. But what is Sundered? Well, this is something that we saw first with the martial arts version of Ellen. In her overdrive attack, she grants that effect. It can be in single target on AoE depending on the attack that you are using. But the thing is, it's never managed to get popular because it was too restricted and that character's not super good against boss fights. But Macha is much better. So Sunder effect is something that becomes an ailment on your enemy, and every time that you attack, it will trigger a defense down effect that stacks with itself, and it's for hits. That means that if you bring someone like Albert with left fork, you will be able to apply 5 defense down. I don't know the exact values, but when testing this, we saw an increase of 5% in damage for each hit. Final increase. That means that, well, if you bring characters with multi-hit attacks like Leon as well, you're going to increase the damage a lot. And on tests, we also saw that you can use SaGa Magical Train 2 times to have double effect for 1 extra turn. It can be interesting just before you enter overdrive, and then you go for overdrive and then just do a lot of damage. Remember that she will also trigger Crimson Sun Flare on overdrive. That means that after she applies the Sunder, she herself will trigger the first defense down, sometimes triggering the second as well if she triggers Crimson Flare. But then you will be using other characters to do damage. Good thing is that she does have some good agility. It's possible that she will attack before your damage dealers. It's interesting, but, well, it's kind of her selling point here. What are you doing besides the Sundered effect? Well, I think you will need her New Year style in order to add more to into the character, because you could just inherit Rock Fire if you want, just to stack more BP. Yeah, that's right, but I don't think that's enough to just keep using Sundered. It will be interesting to have something else, like Divine Tree skill. It's interesting because this one attacks 2 times with Sea Power, Blunt and Pierce damage, and she will heal everyone in the party 2 times, for around 200 each hit, 400 on total. But even then, Macha is not that good as a healer right now that we have the newest version of Polka, and they will clash. I don't think that Macha will add so much if you're already playing with the newest version of Polka. In the end, I do believe she's more about keeping up with the Sundered effect or stacking it. You can just wait till turn 3 and start using when you have 18 VP, for example. And then when you reach Overdrive, you want to use that again. And try to reduce the number of turns in a boss fight. Maybe if you want to finish by turn 7 to avoid a nuke, you can bring someone like Leon and Silver, Schuzer, Albert, those characters, and they would just increase the damage potential of each other for a real increase in damage. From tests made by JPrag on Discord, we saw a double increase over the passing of 2 turns and usage of multi-hit attacks. That seems to be the ceiling. You can double the damage, but it takes a very specific team in order to do that. I think this mechanic is interesting and it's worked, but I don't know how much this will add into the future. I don't know if you will say something like, oh, I could not beat this content without this skill. Hence why she is really good. She will receive a SS Plus grade, but in the same time, it's more skippable than the other 2 options. And the last character is Matriarch, and she has some nice buffs on global. 110% STR is not the highest. She doesn't even have bonus, but she does have bonus for agility, and it's the highest value for agility out of all versions of Matriarch. This is already a sign of what she wants to accomplish. Her will is 84 and 179. Good values, but nothing outstanding. When you compare that to her past versions, it's just kinda more of the same. And she does have normal values for love, charisma, and dexterity. So, fast with good enough attack. Now, for passives, we have Intrinsic Spear 4. When she is attacking with spears, damage increases by 20%. When attacked by an attack that will cause resist, damage taken will be reduced by 40%. That means that it's easy to bring that if you have Proof of Work Tower and bring it to your Matriarch. She needs to have at least plus 35 resistance to an element in order to trigger resist. In the same vein, if that attack would cause resist, she has a 37% chance to evade it altogether. Very nice because it has a lot of different things, but you do need to resist the attack or else you're going to take lots of damage. The second passive is called Resolve of the Mind. She starts the fight with 11 BP, and on the end of third, she recovers 5 BP. It's a much better passive than her past versions that were just Conviction, starting with 12, getting 4 per turn. On long fights, this makes a lot of difference because she will always have enough BP to use Paean of Victory or Paean of Peace, since both skills cost 5 BP. The last passive is Fired Up 7, she increases damage by 40%, so in total she has 60% damage increase and 5 BP per turn. Now moving to skills, we have Paean of Tranquility. For 3 BP only, she has a fast support that gives defense boost of medium effect, decreasing damage by 25%, only lasts for 1 turn. She will also recover all surviving allies' HP by around 200 now in the game. So we saw many characters in the past with either the defense boost or the HP recovery, but that's 2 things on the same time on a 3 BP skill. It's new. And it's nice because it's fast. That means that you will always go before the enemy to apply the defense boost. Decreasing damage by 25%, even if for only 1 turn, it's nice because she can keep casting this. So you have a very small heal and a defense boost that will stick to you up to the end of the fight. And sometimes, if you are using Rag Robin, you may need the extra heal. If you are using the Chef Polka, you may not need. So, depending on the companions, it will matter or not. But if she's using the Paean of Tranquility, she's not buffing with Paean of Victory or Paean of Peace. It will depend on the fight, depend on the boss behavior, but most people will still stay with Paean of Victory and Paean of Peace because those two skills are amazing. It will be much better to have this in another character so that you could combo. The second skill is called SaGa Balloon Sanctuary. For 8 BP you have a full AoE fast attack that hits all enemies with some damage only. It has B power, so it's inferior to Shining Glory, that is A power, and it has Pierce and Sun. But remember that this one uses LP because it heals and buffs. But there's something else. Instead, she will just buff all surviving alliance attack boost by 20% before she attacks. This will last for 3 turns and even stack with itself. The good thing is that you feel this attack like A power instead of B just because she's boosting herself before she attacks, and all the other characters that attack after her are going to get an increased damage. And you can actually use this attack 2 times in a row for raids, for example, it's gonna help. And then after that, you can use this skill once every 2 turns because she gets 5 BP. Besides, since this attack is fast, you can use her together with many other damage dealers. For example, you can place her in a back row. She's a fast attacker, and she will boost the damage of the frontal character in the Magia fight formation, if that character is not fast. Now, you can also pair her with UDX Bertrand, for example. Place her on the front line this time, and she's going to use a fast attack, boosting Bertrand damage so that he can kill targets and recover his BP. There are many ways to use this, but it's locking in only Sun. I really wish it was double element. Now moving on to the third one, we have Round Slicer. 10 BP single target attack with 4 S damage and pierce damage. That is insane, only 10 BP for 4 S damage? That's right. It has no additional effect, but for farming scenarios you can use this on turn 1 and then again on turn 3. It's easy to set this up, just leave SaGa Balloon Sanctuary on 10. I don't know if you will want to use Round Slicer on Overdrive. For example, if you think about this Matriarch without considering Inheritance, you'll be using Paean of Tranquility for the whole fight. Then when you reach Overdrive, you have to decide if you want to boost the attack of everyone else or just nuke yourself. If the enemy is super weak to Pierce, it's okay to use Round Slicer, but in most scenarios you will want to use SaGa Balloon Sanctuary to increase the damage of your real damage dealers like Leon, Chooser, Silver. Those will benefit from the 20% damage increase, especially if you actually use this once before Overdrive and then again during Overdrive, so that you stack 40% damage increase. But all the time, people will want to use this Matriarch as a buffer, because with 5 BP, you can always buff either Paean of Victory that buffs 4 different status, or Paean of Peace that boosts the other 4 remaining status. Those type of strategies will remain the most important ones against boss fights, especially Paean of Peace. It's the best skill in the game for bossing. And besides that, you can actually just inherit Shining Glory if you want and use this 2 times in a row for farming. It's not fast, but it deals more damage and will heal and buff 4 different status. There is also the case for Paean of Heartthrob. If you want, this is a 12 VP skill that boosts all your status by 25%, debuff all status from enemies by 15%, and applies defense boost to yourself, decreasing damage by 15%, and defense down to the enemies, decreasing their defense by 15%. You have plenty of different effects. This was not so doable when using Valentine's Matriarch because the cost is too high. But now you can actually use with this Matriarch, and you can even reach like 20 BP and use this twice in a row because she will have enough BP to do this. And well, it may be interesting in scenarios like fights with 20-10 waves, because you can actually save BP and just wait for the boss that comes on the wave number 9 or wave number 10. So could work, I guess. And the other remaining thing is that Paean of Protection. You could inherit this if you just want her to stay with Paean of Tranquility, and then use Paean of Protection when you need to heal more than just that very small effect, and you even apply an evasion shield. It's a strategy that works, but like I said, most people would just prefer to keep buffing because Pin of Peace is just that good. And another interesting inheritance will be Gleaming Way, because this Matriarch can use SaGa Balloon Sanctuary twice in a row, and from the turn 3 and beyond, she's just going to stick with Gleaming Way. Now, the important question comes, is this Matriarch worth? I have to say yes, because she's the best buffer, but do you really need her? Well, the best Matriarch for general usage is still Matriarch number 4 in my opinion. Why? Because you can inherit either Pin of Peace or Pin of Victory, and you will always have access to Pin of Protection. And we know how important this can be. Let's say you are in a situation where your boss just nuked you and your healer does not have enough PP to heal. You're in danger zone. Now you can use Pin of Protection, because this is a 5 EP only skill that heals and casts evasion. You'll be protected, and this saved me so many times before. And she already has high protect tension to decrease damage by 30% at all times. It's not a big difference. But since Matriarch is a key character and she offers even more stuff, and even other types of buffs now, it's still a very good catch. So if you are a free-to-play player or you don't have any more resources, you can wait a little to see if there's something else in future banners instead of swimming for another Matriarch, if you already have at least the first, the third, and the 4th. And I also believe that Matriarch number 6 is a better investment than Valentine's, so there's that. Well, regardless, this Matriarch is still an OP character that will receive an OP grade in our tier list, but considering at least one inheritance either for Matriarch number 1 or Matriarch number 3, Pin of Peace or Pin of Victory, that is still the main gameplay of Matriarch. Now back to the banner image, is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, yes, but there's some caveat. First of all, you need either Matriarch with Pin of Peace or Pin of Victory before you pull for this Matriarch. And for Rocbouquet case, you need her Fleeting Beauty style to take full advantage of this new one. If you do have those two things, this banner receives a gold minus the ward for you. Even if you don't like Macha design, she's still going to help you with some different mechanics that may lead to different strategies. And Matriarch and Rocbouquet will stay relevant for the foreseeable future. Even though I gave the same award for this banner in Polka's banner, I believe that Polka's banner is easier to pull because you only need Rag Robin there to have the full potential, because there all the 3 units will be very nice to have all the time. Here you need more styles, while Macha is a little more restricted and you will not use her all the time, but that's my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links on the description of the video. Hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.